You make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Good evening. Welcome into Greenie Sports Cards Live. Today is Tuesday, August 13th. That means we're back with another edition of Greenie Sports Cards Live, coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio. My name is Jeremy Levine, the man about town. We will be joined shortly by the man himself, Greenie, Steve Greenberg of Greenie Sports Cards, of course, the namesake. And we have what might be our biggest show to date tonight. We're really, really excited about tonight's program. Tons of content, tons of great stuff, great guests, and we're really excited to bring that to you this evening. We're going to have a catch up with Gregg and Blake Williams, both former Super Bowl winning coaches. They were here with the Cleveland Browns a few years ago. We'll catch up with them and hear what they have to say. We're also going to be joined and show you a short film retrospective with former Major League Baseball pitcher Dave Stewart, of course, a two-time ALCS MVP with the Oakland A's and a World Series MVP after he won that with the A's back in the 90s. And very, very cool presentation that we're excited to share with you, the debut of that short film with Dave Stewart. A little bit later on, we're going to be joined by 92.3 The Fan's Daryl Ruiter, Cleveland sports reporter and a huge supporter of Greenie Sports Cards, the voice of Greenie Sports Cards. Daryl will join us to talk about his memorabilia collection. He's a huge bobblehead collector and all kinds of memorabilia. We'll talk to Daryl about what it's like to be a sports reporter and give you a little bit of a perspective and a catch up on what Daryl has found to date on the Brown Stadium situation, which is big news here in Cleveland. And he'll give us a lay of the land on what's happening and what he's found. Of course, you can hear Daryl on the It's Always Game Day in Cleveland podcast, along with Andy Baskin from 92.3 The Fan. And catch up with those guys. So tons of content. We've got some breaking news to share with you as well on the Greenie front, and really excited to get going. So let's go ahead and bring in Greenie himself and catch up. Greenie, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, Jeremy. I'm good. I'm recovered now. We're 2 weeks post national, and I'm recovered, and we're ready to take the second half by storm.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're still a little bit on a buzz and high from the national. We still got tons of content coming out, and we want to remind people that we are on eBay as well, coming up at 8 o'clock with Alex, our auctioneer extraordinaire, and how that works. We'll give people a little bit of perspective. So all auctions start at $2, correct?
Yep.
And shipping is combined at $4.99. So the more you get in, the more you buy. It's all added value from there. So Alex has a ton of cards, as he does always. He's got football and baseball and basketball and even wrestling and soccer. And the show is really driven. This show as well, our portion is driven by the audience interactivity and people telling us who they want to see, what they want to engage with. And we've got that auction piece. So Alex will be coming up at 8 o'clock, and we're still heavily involved with eBay, but you've got some news to share on where we're evolving as well.
Yeah, starting next Tuesday, you can see up here in the right corner, we are going to start with Whatnot. Um, we've decided, we had a nice conversation with them at the National, and then last week we got together with them as well and kind of gave them an idea of what we were doing here. And they're excited to bring along the Greenie Sports Cards Live show, as well as Alex and the auction afterwards. So um, we thought, what better way to start the second half? And we're going to start kicking off with Whatnot and eBay as well. I mean, so for now, our plan is to do our show every Tuesday night, and then Alex will go live on Whatnot at 8 o'clock, and then we'll stay on eBay on Thursday nights with eBay Live at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We've built up quite a reputation there, so we wanted to keep both platforms available. And we told Whatnot that, we told eBay that. We want to exhaust every platform that we can be on and bring this content to everybody.
Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction, that we are by no means abandoning eBay. We're going to continue to do that and build that audience, but Whatnot is a really unique opportunity to engage with those collectors as well. So that'll be next week, I believe. We'll start with Whatnot.
Yep, that is the plan. We still have some kinks to work out with our streaming platform and getting that on Whatnot, but the plan is to have that up and running next week.
This has been a really exciting and challenging journey since we started the launch, which happened in late January. Of course, eBay Live gave us an opportunity to bring this concept to light, which is really the world's first multi-stream broadcast and live auction for the hobby industry. So this was a really unique endeavor that combined what we do here. We talk to special guests and interview and provide hobby news and content. But then the live auction component was really neat. And we're very grateful to eBay for allowing us to continue to evolve that. And then the door is open to Whatnot, and the show is growing and the response is growing, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's the response is what's awesome. And it's why we wanted to branch out and use Whatnot platform as well as eBay, because of the response that we've got. And we've had people ask, when are you going to be on Whatnot? When are you going to be here? And the time has come to do that.
And really, admittedly, there's a secret sauce to all of this too, and we can't do it without an exceptional auctioneer in Alex. He knows his stuff, he knows his cards, he knows sports, so he can really hold that 1.5 hour to sometimes up to 3 hour marathon of an auction. And we're fortunate to have somebody like Haley as well, but running behind the scenes and producing shows, and of course your team back at the vault that's pulling cards, and whether that's John or anybody else you have involved actually setting that stuff up. So like anything else, it takes a village. And it's really cool to be part of this evolution and continue to do this every Tuesday.
Yeah, and you said that the village, and that includes Daryl Ruiter, who is our voice of all our ads and commercials that you hear on the Odyssey app. They run daily, and we change them up every month. And Daryl, at the click of a button, man, he goes and he gets those. And not only that, he comes over and hangs out. And when we talk to him about his bobblehead collection, when Daryl comes over and hangs out, it's not like we're talking about what happened at the training camp or a Browns or an Indians game. We actually just, we hang out. I mean, we're friends, and we go through the bobbleheads and we go through different things. So it'd be very fun to talk to him about that and how his collection has grown. And even a lot of the people in sports media that are around the city, they know that he collects them, and they get him bobbleheads, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And we'll be excited to talk to him a little bit more in a long form, because he's day in and day out, he's breaking news. He's breaking Browns news, especially. He's covering the Guardians. He covers the Cavs when they're in season. And that's not what we're looking for here. We're not looking for breaking news or to talk team and have him talk about, the 52-man roster or 53-man roster. We want to hear about his memorabilia angle. And of course, he is really close to the vest on what's happening with the stadium. And I think it's important to kind of share that and shed light, because this is a major decision that will impact Northeast Ohio and beyond, and want to kind of lay that out and what he's found out to date. So we'll talk to Daryl. We talked to, again, Coach Williams and Blake Williams, who caught up with them at the National. They are on the Come Get Some show with the Big Play Network. We got to talk to them. And then I mentioned it earlier, I'm really excited to roll out this debut of the Dave Stewart retrospective. I was very, very fortunate to be able to spend some time walking the National with Dave and a couple of his team members, and of course Ray Schulte being one of them. And Ray asked me to follow along and capture some content. And then we sat down after and had a chance to reflect on what he saw. And we saw some pretty amazing things. And to hear that perspective from a former major leaguer and what he saw on the show, and you know, at one point he was at the top of the game. It's really cool. So we'll be excited to roll that out here shortly. But we're going to kick it off with an interview with Gregg and Blake Williams, former Super Bowl winning coaches. Of course, Gregg was an interim coach here in Cleveland, and Blake did that. And these guys are a lot of fun.
They are. We had a chance to watch a game with them last year, the Thursday night, the Jets game. And then it evolved. We've been able to talk to them several times, and at the National to catch up with them was really pretty cool.
Yeah. You know, not that I forgot about that game, but that was a bit of a surreal experience. The Browns were clinching the playoffs at that point against the Jets. And you hear Coach Gregg Williams in the back chirping about what play they're going to call or what they're running, or kind of get that insight. It was pretty cool to hear the game from a different perspective and not just say, wow, that guy made a tackle.
Right.
So yeah, let's go ahead and catch up with Gregg and Blake Williams.
We are live at the 44th National Sports Collectors Convention here in Cleveland, Ohio at the IX Center, and we just happened to run into Williams' team of Coach Gregg Williams and Blake Williams, currently on Big Play with your Come Get Some show.
Yeah.
So, Coach, we saw you out here the other day. Blake was out here as well. You guys came back. What brought you back on your own accord?
We fell in love with Cleveland, fell in love with Berea. You know, my son's been with me on all the different stops along the way, growing up in the business and then going into the business, coaching in the NFL. But he fell in love with Berea, and when he retired from coaching, made his home here. And I'm waiting to get back in the league a little bit right now, so I came up here to spend time with him and the grandkids, and now the new show, Come Get Some.
So you came back to Cleveland, but you also came back to the national show here.
Yeah.
What appealed to you?
I mean, we didn't know exactly, like you said, we were on the main stage on day one to open it. It was funny, talking through it, we thought, okay, we're gonna help get exposure to this and have more people come in. And then we were just trying to get into the parking lot, come in. We said, they're not going to need us to get more exposure to this. We had no idea, but we wanted to come back. Really what happened was after we got off the stage, we came back here with friends and saw, like, we've been at, Super Bowls, Pro Bowls, all these all-star games, these huge sporting events. It pales, like, all those pale in comparison to the accumulated star power. Event. Yeah, that
star power
at these things. So we wanted to come back today, see Warren Moon and Dan Marino, Johnny Football, right? Bo Jackson, just, people, friends of ours, and just come and hang out and catch up. Like, you don't get this opportunity very often, to see everybody in one place.
You guys have been in locker rooms, you've signed autographs yourselves hundreds, thousands of times. Do you guys have anything personal that you've kept along the way? Like, a piece of memorabilia?
Oh, yeah. Tons and tons of memorabilia.
We have tons and tons of memorabilia. In fact, in my man cave at home, you can only get up on the wall on the man cave. You have to be a Hall of Fame quarterback that I coached against and beat you, and to get up there. And so there's 25 NFL Hall of Fame quarterbacks that are on my wall, and the only jersey that's not a quarterback on my wall is from the legendary Jim Brown that I got a chance to have an office right next.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, I've got so many, jerseys and signed stuff, stuff with everybody at the Pro Bowl and everybody, but one of my favorite in my man cave here in Berea is my personalized signed
Jim Brown.
Framed Jim Brown photo that I got from my time at the Browns when when he was still around, all the time, and signed that for me. That's one of my favorite pieces.
So Blake and Gregg Williams, part of the Come Get Some show that can be seen on Big Play, the Big Play Network, which is one of the fastest growing sports networks in the country, as well as Bally's currently. Talk to us a little bit about the show and how that came about and what you're looking forward to doing with that moving forward.
Blake's the host of the show. He's the head coach of the show. It's his idea. I'll let him tell you.
Yeah, I mean, just one of those random fortuitous things. It went from never having a chance, an opportunity, because of just our life in football, to go to a pregame or any sort of like tailgate. It was like we had the opportunity last year, so week one we're crashing the Muni lot. This is happening, and to then hooking up with Big Play, there, and one thing led to another. We're like, hey. Yeah, we'll do a show, and then it just
spiraled after that.
And spiral, like naturally we're gonna call it "Come Get Some."
The show is real. I mean, you guys have been in this business, not the media side, but in the coaching side, and the perspective you guys get. I watch it. It is very real, more so than somebody that's been in just media their whole lives.
Thank you for that. I mean, that's what we're going for. We're trying to be as real as we can be on TV. Right?
Right.
So give them a little bit of a look behind the scenes on like what those locker rooms are like, or what those, meetings were like, what those games were like, those sidelines were like, when we bring on like our Aaron Donalds, our Blaine Bishops, some of the guests we've had on here, and some of the guests we've had on here this season, for season 2, and just kind of show that camaraderie and that come get some, behind the scenes of what it really is.
And I tell the host of the show, make sure you don't ask me a question that's going to hurt somebody else's feelings, because I'm going to say exactly how it is.
Well, that's what we love about you, Coach. We've seen that for the few years that you've been here in Cleveland.
You bet.
Yeah,
you bet.
But we appreciate your few minutes with us here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everything you guys do for the fans. It's important for the fans. Okay, I appreciate you too.
Guys.
Our thanks to Blake and Gregg Williams out here live at the 44th National Sports Collectors Convention in Cleveland, Ohio at the IX Center. If you haven't been out here, you need to get out here. This is such an amazing display of fandom, camaraderie, sports, and entertainment. Stay tuned. Greenie Sports Cards Live.
All right. Thank you.
So, Greenie, a couple things stuck out from that interview. One was they thought they were going to give exposure to the National Sports Collectors Convention, and were blown away when they showed up on site. Two, the fact that they're collectors themselves, there's some interesting piece there. Three, the whole Big Play thing evolved from when they showed up at a tailgate, and Coach Gregg Williams was just hanging out, and he hooked up with those guys. But the thing that really hit home was this was the biggest sports event these guys have ever seen, and they have been to Super Bowls and All-Star games, NBA All-Star Weekend, and they just couldn't believe what they saw, to the point that they were on the main stage with their show on Friday, and then they came back Saturday.
Yeah, they came back to hang out and see, some of the players that they've met or coached with or against in their careers, and that's what drew them back, as well as seeing the fans. I mean, we saw them mingling around and talking to fans and hanging out, and I mean, for them, and we've heard this for years and years, and back in the 80s, when people come to Cleveland, they typically tend to stay in Cleveland. And like, Coach Gregg said, they fell in love, and Blake's like, I'm going to retire and I'm going to raise a family here in Cleveland, Ohio. And, a lot of people have done that in the days. I mean, you look at Jose Ramirez now in Cleveland. He wanted to stay here. He took a discount, right? So there's a lot to like here. The fandom in Cleveland is, I mean, every city says that they have the best fans, but really Cleveland is like no other. I mean, to be fans of our teams that have had the seasons that they've had in the last 50 years, you got to be a true fan to stick around here.
Absolutely. So our thanks again to Gregg and Blake Williams, who can be seen on the Big Play Network with the Come Get Some show. And you mentioned that as well. They tell it like it is. Coach Williams, you may not agree with him, but he speaks his mind.
He does. He does. As a matter of fact, that game we were at last year when we were in the studio and watching the game there, I think they were debuting a potential show. And I remember, Coach Gregg saying, I'm going to have to keep it clean to be on this channel. And I mean, he's something else, but he will tell you exactly like it is. And he makes no qualms about it.
Yeah, very cool to catch up with those guys, and extremely cool. The whole national experience, but I mentioned it earlier. I was right place, right time, and right relationships to be able to ask to accompany a former major league ball player, Dave Stewart, to kind of see the event through his eyes and take in what was just an incredible experience. And it's one thing for us as sort of, with me on the event side, with you on the hobby side, we look at the event in a certain way and a certain perspective. And to see it through his eyes, somebody who's on the celebrity level, the celebrity athlete, he went from signing to then going out on the floor and having a chance to see some of this stuff and engage with some people and kind of get a guided tour from Ray. It's very cool. So we're going to debut Retrospective with Dave Stewart, a short film here, and we hope everybody enjoys it. We've had the good fortune to spend some time with Dave Stewart, number 34, retired by the Oakland A's, based on 4 consecutive 20-win seasons, 1989 World Series MVP, pitched a no-hitter in 1990 against the Toronto Blue Jays, and of course 2 ALCS MVP awards in 1990 and 1993.
You've had a remarkable career. This is a remarkable event out here at the National Sports Collectors Convention. You were able to spend a couple minutes on the floor. We got to go by Heritage Auctions and see Babe Ruth's jersey and some other things. What are your first thoughts when you see something like this and have a chance to take in a bit of the history of the game and some of the memorabilia?
Well, it's always eye-opening events similar to this, because the attraction are the athletes that you are able to bring to these events. And so, when you walk in, you really don't know what to expect. If anybody said they knew what to expect when they came here, I don't think that they're telling the truth, because you can't imagine, there's a Robin Yount in one side of it, and there's a Ricky Henderson on another side. And, there could be, there could be a Michael Jordan here. The magnitude of athletes that come to these events, you never get an opportunity to see them in the same space. And that in itself is eye-opening, it's surprising, and it's just unbelievable.
While it's fresh, what's something you saw on the floor that might have caught your eye, or given the history and your history in the game, something that you thought, wow, that's pretty neat?
Well, seeing a Babe Ruth jersey, that was a jersey that he pointed, he was going to hit the home run. I mean, that in itself was, I don't even have the words to express it, big fan of baseball. I love baseball. I can't say I'm an historian of baseball, but everybody knows about Babe Ruth pointing and then hitting the home run and the story behind that. And then to actually be standing in front of the jersey that he wore when he hit that home run, it kind of makes the room silent, if you know what I mean. That was the most amazing thing that I saw. And then the second thing was a 42-ounce bat by Shoeless Joe Jackson. I mean, try swinging 42 ounces today, and hitting 400. Just things that I would never imagine seeing, and I wouldn't have seen in my everyday life if I wasn't here.
It's pretty remarkable, the collection here. It's almost like the world's largest sports and entertainment museum that just pops up for a couple days. Did you collect anything growing up? Were you a fan of the game?
I was a fan of the game, but I was not a collector. People will slap me upside my head 1,000 times. When I tell the story that I met Willie Mays when I was a 7-year-old kid, and it was bat day at the Giants at Candlestick Park at that time, and we waited to get his autograph, and he signed a bat for me from bat day. And people say, well, do you still have that bat? Man, I brought that bat out probably 2 weeks after that and was playing baseball in the street with my friends. So I'm not a collector. For that matter, I'm not even a picture taker, but I am a fan of the game. When I talk to people about baseball and my love for the game, I'm 51 years in baseball in some shape, form, or fashion. So I am a fan. I am in love with the sport, a participant in the sport, but I've never been a collector.
Certainly collected some of your own items, some MVP awards, some World Series along the way. We're here in Cleveland. I'll ask you, do you have any specific memories of coming back to Cleveland, things that stick out, ball games?
The only thing
plays?
I remember about Cleveland, which is not the only thing, but it's the most memorable thing about playing in Cleveland, is the big stadium, which was probably 70 or 80,000 seats, and hearing that drum beat through the whole game. I remember that like it was yesterday. It was a huge stadium, but, if you had 20,000 fans in the seats, it still felt like 500 because the stadium was so big. But that drummer is the most memorable piece of history and coming in the city and playing. It's the most memorable piece for me. And they had some good guys. I mean, Andre Thornton was a part of the teams that I pitched against. I believe that Toby Harrell was here one year when I played here. Buddy Bell was before me getting here. But Andy Thornton and the gentleman, the gentle giant is what you would call him. I mean, he was a big man in the middle of their lineup that just created damage. I mean, absolute damage. And, you know, when you want to talk about the maybe not so good things, but still a good thing, Mel Hall played here, and Mel was an absolute nut, you know. Albert Bell, you know, I remember Buddy Black pitching here. So
Joe
a lot
Carter,
of things.
Tony Bonazar.
Yep. There are a lot of things that I remember about this team. You know, Julio Franco, I remember getting in a fight with the manager here. I fought Pat Corrales in Oakland and created a bench clearing brawl. So, you know, I have memories of the Cleveland teams, but the stadium in particular, coming to Cleveland, I'll always remember the drama.
Dave, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, and we'll cherish this experience at the 44th National Sports Collectors Convention for a long time to come.
This is one of the best. I can tell you that this experience was one that I'll remember for a long time. I was like a little kid standing in front of that Babe Ruth jersey. You can believe that.
That was something.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. He had a great career, Dave Stewart, and some of the things that he remembered. John Adams was the big thing, and everybody in Cleveland remembers John Adams in the drum. But when visiting players say that's one of the big things they remember, I mean, you know that he had an impact on the games.
That's for sure. It was very cool. Our thanks again. My thanks especially to Ray Schulte, who asked me to follow along and capture some of that content. And I get chills thinking about it. Seeing Dave walk up in front of that Babe Ruth jersey, which is valued by Heritage Auctions here to go for about $30 million, which is staggering for a jersey. It's the one he wore when he famously pointed and then hit a home run. This is a crazy business you're in, Greenie.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's you know, the memorabilia and the cards aside, and there's so many different avenues of collecting, which makes it terrific, right? I mean, you can just collect cards, or you can collect memorabilia, or we're going to talk about some bobbleheads here in a few minutes. But there's so many things that people can collect, and then the buying and selling, because that's the thing. You get something that's really rare, and obviously Babe Ruth jerseys they're not on every corner. Not everybody has them, but there are a lot of things that are rare and unique that you can find and, you know, resell.
For sure. So before we go ahead and welcome in Daryl Ruiter here, we've got another quick surprise for you and for everybody else. We want to show you somebody else you caught up with at the National, and remind everybody briefly before that question interview where they might recognize him from.
Get out of here! You rotten bugs! You overpaid Winnie! Vile thing! You make my butt sting! I detest you! You're all garbage! All of you! Back up the truck! Back it up!
Can I ask you about your role in Major League? Did you, was that like off the cusp, or was that like all the stuff you were saying? Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like, because you come off the cusp quite a bit. That was awesome. We enjoy those movies, especially being a Clevelander. So I appreciate your role in that movie. Thank you very much.
See, I told you. Bring out the tarp. Cover the field. I can't watch this anymore. It's over. Turn the lights out. Let's get the bulldozers in here and turn this place into a parking lot.
Yeah, I hadn't got a chance to see that. That's pretty cool.
So there's your breaking news on that one. Randy Quaid was not. It was all scripted for him to do that character.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine. Like I asked him because that's all that stuff that he came up with. I mean, I think maybe he doesn't remember. Some of it couldn't have been scripted.
Yeah, I would gather that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was cool to talk to him for a minute. Everybody wants to talk to him about Vacation and the famous lines in that, but I mean, he played a role in Major League, and as Clevelanders, that the two of those movies. That's it. There's no more, but the two movies, well, right,
yeah,
were
there's
the
one
ones
in
that are memorable.
my book, but
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
yes, there's only one in mine as well, but his role in the second one was pretty good.
so we keep saying it. The National was just a magical experience. It was amazing for Cleveland. That whole event. So we're going to bring Daryl Ruiter here very shortly, but within about a 2-week period, the city of Cleveland hosted what is essentially the Super Bowl of sporting events of the collectible industry. They had the National Sports Collectors Convention out at the IX Center. And then this past week, it's actually still active. This is the last day for the ASAE, which is the American Society for Association Executives. And it's a kind of an off the radar event if you're not in the event or city or meeting industry. But this week, the convention was held in Cleveland. And what that means is it's really the Super Bowl of meetings. And the city positions it that way. And any city that is fortunate enough to land this event has a huge economic impact, not only for this event that comes to the city, but it's a real showcase because you have about 5,000 executives from the associations across the world. And that's everybody from the bus association to the tire association to, global associations that host meetings and conventions. And they get to see, touch, feel your city in a real active space. And there's a projected 20 to 30% increase of meetings from association executives that show up in Cleveland and experience this event. And I was able to hear David Gilbert, who's the president of the CVB Destination Cleveland, as well as the Sports Commission. He projected anywhere from $200 million to $500 million economic impact because of this event that took place. And conservatively, towards the high end too, he feels that based on the way this went this week with the weather cooperating and the experience, attendees got to experience a concert, a Nelly concert the other night. MGK was in town with his activities. There was a party at the Rock Hall last night. They experienced activities around town. The Savannah Bananas were in town the other day at the Progressive Field. It was an amazing experience. And so within 2 weeks, we've had these two really, really impactful events. And the reason I bring that up is because when we get to talk to Daryl a little bit, we're gonna kind of understand the landscape of what the new stadium may bring to Cleveland. And there's it may go to Brook Park, it may land back downtown. Everything's a little bit in flux right now, but we're going to get a landscape on that. And ultimately that will impact additional meetings and events coming to Cleveland or not. So very interesting, but definitely a big week. Big weeks in Cleveland, and very exciting stuff for the city. So congratulations to Dave Gilbert and his team, and Gordon Taylor and everybody over there at Destination Cleveland that led a remarkable experience this week for visitors coming to Cleveland and getting to experience this. So with that said, we're going to welcome in Daryl Ruiter, who not only is the voice of Greenie Sports Cards, but he's Cleveland sports reporter on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. He's covering the Browns as a beat reporter. He covers the Cleveland Guardians. He covers the Cleveland Cavaliers when they're in season and all points in between on breaking news. And of course, he's a co-host with Andy Baskin on Every Day is Game Day in Cleveland, a podcast that can also be heard on Odyssey as well. So we're going to go ahead and welcome in Daryl Ruiter. Daryl, thanks for taking some time out of your extremely busy schedule to join us.
How you guys doing?
Good, Daryl. What's happening?
Not much. No off days when you cover the Cleveland Browns. We'll just say that.
Yeah. But anyway, there's going to be a few off minutes here and not talking Cleveland Browns because, like Jeremy was saying, we just had our biggest event, the sports memorabilia and cards, and the National Collectors Convention was here in Cleveland. And we know that you're not a card collector, but you are a bobblehead collector. And
I
that's
am
widely known in the Cleveland circle. And I know a lot of your colleagues know that. And, I definitely, we know that. But How many bobbleheads do you actually have now?
I would say close to 170. I haven't counted them recently, but I've got to say I'm approaching 200 here.
Yeah, I know that your collection spans the Guardians and the Cavs. I know the Cavs championship bobbleheads kind of mean a lot to you, right?
Yeah, those are fun, obviously, for obvious reasons. One of the local retail stores sold the entire team of bobbleheads, and I was tempted to buy the entire team, but it was like 15 of them. They got a little pricey, so I kept it to the starting 5. and then I did get the official Cavs championship bobbleheads, because you have to have the official
Right.
bobbleheads too. So yeah, I don't collect a lot of stuff, but for one reason or another, when the then Cleveland Indians back in the early 2000s started giving away bobbleheads, I was just like, hey, these are like really, really super cool, and I should probably hang on to all these, and I did, and just over time and over the years, the collection has grown. I've bought a few bobbleheads that I wasn't able to get without having to pay for. But yeah, got a couple of cabinets and whatnot, and because of the pandemic, and we all had to do the virtual reality thing for a while. That's why I've got the setup behind me, because it was like, well, I don't want to do the cliche sitting in front of a bookcase that all like the NFL and NBA insiders do when they're on TV. And I didn't want to like be sitting on my couch when I was on Zoom either. So I'm like, I got to do something to jazz up the home office. What possibly could that be? And so the idea to get some cabinets and put all my bobbleheads on display popped up, and actually in one of the Zooms, Cavs, he's now the president of basketball operations, but he was the GM at the time. We're doing a Zoom with Kobe Altman, and I asked him a basketball question, and he sees everything behind me, and before he would answer my basketball question, he objected because he didn't see enough Cavalier bobbleheads in my background. So that was somewhat embarrassing / funny. But yeah, I've got Cavs and Guardians baubles. The Browns really don't do baubles, and
No, they
I
don't.
know we're gonna take a look at them here in a few minutes. But when Joe Thomas went in to the Hall of Fame down in Canton, they had a Joe Thomas bobblehead, which, by the way, looks nothing like him, and they had a Jim Brown bobblehead, which looks exactly like Jim Brown did. I picked those up when I was down there, and yeah, I've kind of told the Browns, like, bobbleheads are a thing, you should get in on it, but pretty much if you're a Browns fan and you want Browns bobbleheads, there's the Tim Couch sitting in front of the stadium one. I don't have that
Right.
one, and I got to be honest with you, it's not on my bucket list of bobbleheads to get.
Sure.
They did give away. I have the Joe Thomas consecutive snap streaks bobblehead that they did give away. But yeah, they really don't. And they do at training camp. They have these really cool, massive, oversized bobbleheads for fans to take pictures with, little social engagement, whatever. And I told them, like, you guys need to get those made and sell them as a collection, or give them
This
away.
one's about
as
50 years old. They must have done these at some point about 50 years ago.
Oh, that's a great one. It
doesn't much bobble anymore, but
you
I've
have
had
him
this one
taped?
probably 48 years or so.
Is he taped together or glued together?
You might
Yeah,
be.
he has a concussion because he doesn't bobble much anymore. But it's an original ceramic, so
Yeah.
I wonder if the Browns don't do bobbleheads in the case of a Jacksonville Jaguars game-ending situation.
Wow. But see, how you do it is you give them away on the way out the door.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah,
that would be the
that's-
Cleveland Browns way to do it.
But Greenie, as you know, those bottles don't pack much of a wallop. Come on now.
Yeah, well, some of them, Clevelanders can't hit anybody anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think the Browns should have some, and maybe they're Ring of Honor guys or something like that.
The Hall of Famers, do a Hall
right.
of Famer series or something. But Yeah, I mean the Bernie one that they have is really cool. The big, tall, oversized one.
Mhm.
But yeah, they don't really do bobbleheads. They pretty much lean on the licensing, or I should say the
Right.
companies and product producers that have like the NFL licensing. I don't want to advertise anyone on your podcast here, but there is one that is always coming out with like new product and stuff like that, and they're limited edition. They usually charge anywhere from $60 to $100 for
Mm.
the bobbleheads, but that's really if you're a Browns fan and you want player bobbles. I think they sell them in the team shop. I don't want to steer anyone
Oh,
the
I'm
wrong
sure they
way.
do.
I think they might sell some in the team shop, but yeah, you just pretty much got to order them online.
So, Daryl, while we have you, we want to talk a little bit about the stadium situation, and certainly we're not going to break any news. You've been able to recap on, of course, Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan, and on your podcast with Andy Baskin. It's always game day, but we kind of want to give a perspective of where things are right now, because there's Brook Park, there's Cleveland. There's a little bit of contention now where it'll go. We want to go ahead and show what the Browns released first, and we'll come back and talk about this. This is a video that the Browns released with their presentation for Brook Park, what a dome stadium would look like. And we'll take a look at that, and then we'll circle back on kind of the lay of the land on what's happening. So there are three sort of tentacles to this right now. The city of Cleveland made a pitch and a presentation to renovate the current stadium. The Haslam Group has a vision, which we just showed you, for what would be a dome and complex in Brook Park, which, for those of you that don't know, Brook Park actually shares a border with the city of Cleveland. It literally, they're almost indistinguishable, but it is outside the city. It's outside of downtown. And the third component of this is the county itself. And there's also a fourth, which would be the state of Ohio, but the county has also weighed in on this. So Daryl, let's work backwards a little bit. The city of Cleveland fired the first shot, as it will, and they gave a deadline. Give people a perspective on what that initial foray was into renovating the stadium.
Well, the Browns began this process shortly after they did the last renovation to the stadium, in which they foot the bill for 100 of the $125 million renovation. City of Cleveland covered the other $25 million. But they knew that stadium was on borrowed time, and their time in it potentially would be on borrowed time. So shortly after that renovation was completed, they began exploring their stadium options. They looked at a variety of sites in and around downtown Cleveland. They looked in Brook Park, and that is ultimately the site that they chose as the best. A lot because of the infrastructure. You've got Interstate 480 and I-71 right there. It's right across from Cleveland Hopkins Airport, which is about to get a massive $3 billion overhaul. The Browns would love to tie into that project. They would love to give the airport something that, quite frankly, is not there, and that's larger hotels, a place for folks that get stranded. Because as we know, when air travel, you get delayed, you get your flights canceled and whatnot, and sometimes you have to scramble to find hotel rooms. And on the campus of the airport, there are no hotels. And so the Haslam Sports Group, as part of their Brook Park project, they want to build some hotels. But as far as the renovation goes, the dollar figures: 30-year lease, $461 million. The bulk of that comes from admissions taxes over a 30-year period. There's a $20 million slush stadium repair fund. There is also Willard Garage and the Muni Lot. The city has offered to allow the revenues from those two on event days and game days to go towards stadium construction, which doesn't fit what the Browns are looking for. The Browns are looking to expand their revenue streams. This is a business deal. The Browns and the Haslams are not running a charity here. They are in it to make money. That's why they spent $1 billion to buy the team. That's why they're offering to spend what they are willing to spend, not only on the lakefront, but if they are able to build their dome. So right now you've got a war of words. And as you said, the city of Cleveland fired the first shot while they were in West Virginia, giving them an August 12th deadline, I should say. That was this past Monday, to respond. The Browns, from what I understand, have responded, but they have not responded with a yes or no. They have responded with a series of questions in regards to the mayor's plan, because there are a lot of holes that can be poked in that plan. But this whole thing with lakefront development, that's a component to this as well. The lakefront has not been developed since the beginning of time, outside of the Rock Hall and the Science Center that's there, and obviously Voinovich Park was built in the 90s, and that's a beautiful spot. But there's nothing there. But those three things in a stadium and a bunch of parking lots. The Lerner family, when they owned the Browns, their frustration was they tried multiple times to get the city to develop the lakefront. They did what the Haslams did and hired architects and engineering firms and did studies and came up with beautiful renderings of what can be done on the lakefront, and that nothing happened. And so the Lerners were like, yeah, we're pretty much done. We're just not interested. And they ended up selling the team to the Haslams. So it's going to go back and forth now here. This is a lot of politics involved. A lot of money is involved. But as it stands right now, I think we're in a little bit of a stalemate. The politicians want renovation because they claim the stadium is a core part of downtown Cleveland. And my argument to that is, well, then why have you done nothing with the lakefront for my entire life? Because I have seen about 150 lakefront development plans. Not a single one has come to fruition, and all they do is talk about what they can do. They don't do anything, and now, they're clutching their pearls because, gasp, the Haslams want to just do their own thing because they don't really want to, continue to invest in a building that really has nothing going for it.
That's right. And so part of the irony here is you mentioned all those lakefront plans, and you had Chris Ronayne, who's the county executive now, was actually a city planner under Mayor Jane Campbell all those years ago, and was a big proponent of the lakefront. So ironically, again, Chris came out yesterday on behalf of the county, and the county has now backed the city plan to stay downtown. It's interesting that you said that the Browns did respond, because I think it's a bit of semantics. They didn't say yes or no, but they responded. So from a process standpoint, what happens next? Because some of this is playing out in public, some of it isn't. This is a really big decision that will impact the city for years to come. And the reality is, I've heard you say this before, the Cowboys play in Arlington, and there's two teams in New York that don't actually play in New York. Brook Park is as close to the city of Cleveland borders as you can get.
Yeah.
What is this really about? Because if it does move to Brook Park, and if people are hung up on the idea that they're moving out of Cleveland, but yet all this land opens up on the lakefront for development, it could potentially be a huge win all the way around. And from an event planning perspective, I referenced ASAE earlier, the ability to attract that many more events that come to Cleveland, whether it's a Super Bowl and a Final Four, all the things that come with it, this could actually be a really big win. So without making any predictions or getting ahead of ourselves, what sort of happens next now that they've each given their side of the story?
Well, obviously, the city of Cleveland now is going to have to respond to the Browns and answer their questions. The Browns maintain that they have not made a decision on which project they want to pursue. I can't tell you the organization would like to have that decision made within the next 45 days, potentially, because they also then, once they make a decision on the project, they now have to then put the financing packages for that project together. If they are able to pursue Brook Park, and that is the decision, they have to actually acquire that land. They do have a purchase agreement there. So there's a lot that has to really happen right now from a political standpoint. The county's made it clear they're not interested in supporting what the Browns want to do in Brook Park. They are only interested in supporting the existing stadium. There are some differing opinions about the length of life that remains in that stadium. The politicians say you're going to get another 30 years out of it. I've had folks tell me that even with a $1 billion plus renovation, up to $1.2 billion, by the way, that maybe you get 15 or 20 years out of it. They tried to sell the Browns on Burke Lakefront Airport. The mayor right now behind the scenes is honestly, he's trying to get that airport closed. That's one of his priorities. And, so they kind of want to do a renovation and say, well, in 20 years, we'll build you something where Burke Lakefront Airport is. Yeah, well, in 20 years, that's going to cost about $10 billion. Whereas this existing project, you're looking at $2.4 billion. The Haslams are offering a 50-50 split on both projects. So that's either $500 to $600 million on the lakefront, split down, for each, the Haslams and the public. And then, out in Brook Park, it's $1.2 billion, which that is a ton of money. And the Haslams contend that complex will pay for itself in that, the tax revenue that is generated by the complex. They would like that to be recycled back into paying off the public portion of that facility. I don't know if their math adds up. I'm just being honest there. Obviously, I've been a big proponent of building a new dome. I have said I feel that stadium ruins the lakefront. It's hard to get to unless you like 25-minute walks to and from your car. Any Cleveland establishments, right? They're clutching their pearls because, oh my goodness, downtown Cleveland's going to fall apart if the Browns leave. All the businesses are going to collapse and this, that, and the other. Well, it takes you, 40 minutes to walk down from the lakefront down to the stadium. So, from a bar, like, I mean, and no land bridge, no boulevard transition really is going to kind of fix that. But the fight is on. There's no question about it. It is a war of words what to do now. The city and the county have made their position known. And the ball's, I think, back in the Browns' court to respond. And then, the Browns at some point here are just going to have to make a decision what project they want to move forward with. And my gut tells me that part of this could be, too, to get the Browns to pay even more for the Brook Park Dome, put more of their money on the line. But what they're not including in this right now, yes, 50-50 for the Dome, but the Browns, or I should say the Haslam Sports Group, they're willing to spend upwards of $1.4 billion additional for the development. So you're talking $2.6 billion. Okay. Oh, by the way, they're spending $200 million next to their facility in Berea right now to do another development. So, this is a group that's offering to spend nearly $3 billion of their own capital in this region. And I don't know any billionaires that have offered to put up close to $3 billion of their own capital to develop. But the economists always say stadium deals are bad for cities and municipalities. They say, that if this dome gets built, you're going to be stealing business and attraction from downtown Cleveland. You're going to, ruin Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse and whatnot. And I don't know if any of that's true. But what is clear is that the Haslams have been looking to get something done on the lakefront, and then they started traveling and seeing what's out there. And the pro sports game is no longer about stadiums. Ownership of these teams, they're expanding into real estate. You look at what the Atlanta Braves did. The Atlanta Braves, by the way, don't even play in the same county as Atlanta. They went north to another county, and they built not only a ballpark, but they call them ballpark villages. Right. And from my understanding is that ballpark village or whatever makes the Atlanta Braves a ton of money. And so, if the Haslams are going to put that kind of money on the line, then they certainly deserve to profit from it. I will also say this, because Browns season ticket holders are really worried about their ticket prices. If the Haslams build this thing on their own, then they get to charge whatever they want to get in the building. If public money is used, well, then obviously you've got to work to make it affordable so that everyone in the general public can have access to the complex.
So lots and lots more to come. This is an evolving story. Daryl, I could talk to you all day about this stuff. I love it, but we are up against it. We've got the live auction starting here. Tell everybody real quick where they can find you. Of course, 923 The Fan, always game day in Cleveland, but your socials, how can people find you there?
Right or Wrong on Instagram, my last name Wrong. And then if you are on X and want to participate in the lively debate, Right or Wrong Fan on X. Perfect. And of course, you can read everything at 923thefan.com because I've written a bunch.
There you have. And we appreciate it. Awesome and we appreciate your voicing our shows, Daryl. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, Daryl, you spent better part of 6 years investigating this. We really appreciate your time and insight, and we're gonna welcome in Alex here. Daryl, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again, I'm sure.
Thanks, Daryl.
And we'll welcome in Alex real quick. We're behind it a touch, but Alex, you got a live auction coming up on eBay. We announced we'll be on Whatnot starting next week. So what do you got rolling tonight?
A little bit more of the same. We're just going to be going. We got packs. Still got a few national packs left. Still got some other sealed products. So, guys, if you want to get over there, get over to eBay Live. Link is likely in the description. If not, we'll be live on here. Click over to eBay to join. See us next week on Whatnot. And peace out, because I got to get there right now. I'm running behind it. Peace out, everybody. I'll see y'all soon.
All right. Our thanks to Daryl Ruiter. Our thanks to Ray Schulte, to Dave Stewart, to Blake Williams, to Gregg Williams, to Haley behind the board. Our thanks to Greenie himself. Man, this was awesome. The show continues to evolve and grow, and it's a pleasure doing this with you every week.
Yeah, it is. It's terrific, and we can't thank everybody enough for watching and tuning in and making comments and leaving messages, and that's why we do it. So we very much appreciate it and can't wait to see where it's going to continue to go from here.
Absolutely. So head over to eBay Live. Alex is there with the live auction. Everything starts at $2, $4.99 combined shipping. And this train will keep rolling next Tuesday. Looking forward to doing this again with you, Greenie.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it. And then what comes after that with the whatnot, the eBay and everything moving forward, and some other things that we may have up our sleeves. So that'll wrap up this segment, right?
That'll do it. All right. We'll see everybody next Tuesday. Join Alex on eBay tonight and Thursday as well at 8 o'clock. And we'll see you all again.